Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so today we are going to look at one stotram, namely Gangaastotram. And the reason we picked this particular prayer to Ganga Maya, is because of a special day that is next week, which is called Ganga Dashara. It is something that is celebrated in a big way. All along North India, along the banks of Ganga. And I'll talk about its significance a little bit later on, after looking at the verses. It really celebrates the descent of Gangaji. It's also called Gangavartanam. Gangavartan is the descent of Mother Ganga to Manushya Loka. So she's looked upon as a divine mother, as Devi, who descended on earth, on not just earth, but in the whole Manushya Loka, in order to bless the jivas, bless the living beings. So we'll look at that later. But to begin with, just to understand the background, the tradition of Sanatana Dharma is a religious tradition, a cultural tradition, which is widely known, of course, as we all know, as Hinduism. It's really very unique because it is a tradition that teaches us to recognize divinity around us and divinity within us. Sanatana Dharma is based on certain fundamental principles of oneness, of understanding the oneness that is there, that underlines the individual, the world that we experience, and the cause of both, And these principles are taught in the form of a teaching in the Veda. They are contained in the Vedas. In the vision of the Vedas, there is one essential divine truth that pervades all that there is, which includes the individual and the phenomenal world. The phenomenal world is the world of our experience, both objective experience and subjective experience. We live in this twofold world of subjective, objective, and the world is experienced in the form of phenomenon, in the form of events. And so it's called as the phenomenal world. And the Veda sees the ultimate goal of life as recognition of that oneness for a human being and eventually for every living being. In the recognition of that oneness, of understanding that essential truth of oneself and everything else. And what does that do? That recognition frees a person from limitations, from the sense of limitations that we experience in the form of a bondage, being bound, being limited, and the struggle and the suffering and the pain and all that goes with it. For a person who is able to understand this and recognize this for oneself and with respect to the world, for that person, divinity is far from being a belief that is unquestionable and perhaps unverifiable. It is far from being an ideal which cannot be reached. And it's far from being some kind of a pursuit which remains unresolved till the end of our lives. For a person who is able to recognize that, it becomes their reality. It becomes a reality of one's own existence. It's called an abiding reality, a reality that cannot be negated, that doesn't need to be questioned. And then that is how, and also that is experienced, by the person. And that is the end point. In our tradition, in our culture, in our religion, we are surrounded by and we live with the divine, with our gods. We have temples in which the divinity is worshipped, invoked in the form of the very elements themselves, the basic elements like space, air, water, earth, fire. These are called the Panchabhuta Kshetras. We know about this. We go to these temples, we worship these deities, these gods, They're all part of our reality. The rivers are our mothers because they give us life. They sustain life. They nurture. They keep us going, And the mountains are our fathers. They protect us. And not only us, they protected, keep us secure, and including our ancestors, our forefathers. We have all seen this as part of our history, One such river for us, in India, Bharat, is Ganga. She is the heart of India. She is therefore, so she is recognized as a mother, called that way too, Ganga Mata, Ganga Maya. All rivers are looked upon like that, sacred. There are many sacred rivers. Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmada Sindhu Kaveri Jalesmin Sannidhim Kuru. So all these great rivers are invoked in the waters in order to sanctify the waters, and then by prayers, by mantras, and then that water becomes holy water for us that we sanctify ourselves with. So these are the sentiments connected to our understanding. So Ganga is the very personification of goddess Devi, described in our scriptures as Ganga Devi or Devi Ganga. Now we will look at this particular stotram that is attributed to, written by Adi Shankaracharya. Verses of praise that describe her, glory, in the light of the teachings of our scriptures. So we will look at the verses one by one. They're really very beautiful, and get to know something about her legends and her story. Now let's start with the first verse. Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange Tribhuvana Tarini Taralatarange Shankara Mauli Viharini Vimale Mama Matirastam Tava Pada Kamale. Okay. A simple tune. Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange Tribhuvana Tarini Taralatarange Shankara Mauli Viharini Vimale Mama Matirastam Tava Pada Kamale. Gange, hey Gange, hey Gange. Gange is, so hey, it addresses Mother Ganga. It says, Mama Matihi Tava Pada Kamale Astam. Mama Matihi, my mind, my thinking, may it always abide at your lotus feet. So this is a prayer, begins with a prayer by addressing Ganga, O Ganga, may my mind always be attuned to you, in tune with you, the goddess, and at your lotus feet. Lotus feet. What is this lotus feet? Very common expression. The word lotus, feet associated with lotus, So lotus is a flower, beautiful flower, very popularly used, represents many things by its very nature. It represents purity. It comes from muck, grows in a muddy pond. But that stands out, comes through all that, and then exposes itself to the air, to the elements, untouched by the dirt, untouched by the muddy waters, always looks pure. It is pure, unsullied, uncontaminated. It rejuvenates itself every day. It opens up when the sun, in the light of the sun, which it gives, represents knowledge. And it closes itself at night, So it is born and again resolves like any other jiva, So it represents very life itself. And so at your lotus feet, and feet, because feet represent surrender, seeking refuge. Says Bhagavan, Bhu Paudau Yasya Nabhihi Viyat. When Narayana is described, when the Lord is described, he says, if I have to visualize a form for the infinite, then your feet are the ones. Where will I find them? I will find them on the Bhu, on Prithvi, on earth. And where will your head be? It is going to be in the heavens. Because you are infinite. And so, when I seek refuge at the feet of the Lord. And so the feet that are like lotus, and they represent also surrender, So may, O Goddess Ganga, may my mind always be in surrender to you, And then she is also addressed by many other words. She is Devi. The word Devi, she is goddess. Devaha, Devi. The one who is effulgent. The one who is in the form of light. Divinity is always represented in the form of light, not darkness, Light is something that makes everything available to us, Without light, it will all be, nothing will exist. We will not recognize anything, see anything, experience anything. It is the one that makes the very life active. It activates the individual, the jiva. So the one in the form of effulgence, total effulgence, is divinity. And Devi, you're a manifestation, you're an expression of that effulgence. Hey Devi. And the Puranas identify her as the eldest daughter of Himavan. Himavan is Himalayan mountains. I said mountains are fathers for us. So in terms of her, Devi, Ganga Devi, her father in the Puranas is said to be Himavan, and she's the daughter, and his consort Meenavati, another mountain. Okay. So he says she's also said to be the older sister of Parvati Devi. Parvati also born of Himavan, daughter of Himavan and Meenavati. So she's Devi. She's depicted in the Puranas, so either with 2 hands or 4 hands. In one she holds a water lily, again standing for purity like lotus. In the other she holds a kalasham, a water pot. With 4 hands if it is, then the other 2 are gestures of, so Abhayam and Varada Mudra, giving boons. She blessing. So she blesses, and in the form of giving fearlessness. And she has a Vahanam as a Makara Vahanam. Makara is is a mythical creature. So it looks, the front head looks like something like a crocodile. So that is her Vahanam. So that is how she's depicted in what they call this iconography, when they represent Mother Ganga. She's mentioned, talked about in the Vedas, in the Rig Veda, in the Puranas, So, and Itihasas also, Ramayana, Mahabharata. That's how we come to know about Ganga Devi. Devi, she is Bhagavati Devi. Bhagavati, it's a feminine form. The corresponding word is Bhagavan. Bhagavan and Bhagavati. So Bhagavan is the one who, the infinite Ishvara, Parameshwara, Narayana, this is all Bhagavan. Bhagahasya asti iti Bhagavan, the one who has bhagas, which are qualities, certain qualities. 6 qualities are described in infinite measure in connection with the Lord, with Ishvara. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasa shriyaha jnana vairagya yoschaiva shannama itirana. Shannama, 6. He is Aishwaryam. He has, so infinite. Aishwaryam is lordship. Bhagavan, Ishvara is one who's the boss. He's the big boss of everything. Everything. This loka, all the lokas, the whole cosmos, that anything that we can imagine, that which is beyond our imagination. He is the Lord of all. Then Viryaha, he has Viryam, strength, Shakti, Shakti is always there with Ishvara, in the form of strength, power, like with Parameshwara in Shaiva tradition, or Narayana and Lakshmi, Shriyaha. Shri is wealth, all kinds of wealth, prosperity, etc. So all with Bhagavan only. If we have it, it comes from him, and a small fraction. Yashas is fame, recognition. People are always looking for, there is Bhagavan. Accept it or deny it. But it's always there. Well known, well known. Jnana Vairagyam, Jnanam, omniscience. There in the Lord, since He is a maker of everything, as the creator, Creation presupposes knowledge. Knowledge presupposes sentient being. So he has omniscience, all knowledge. Because it's a world that is limitless, that we experience. And at the same time, Vairagyam, he is there in the middle of all of this, underlying all of this, yet has a distance, not not involved in it, not affected by it. So thus, and she is expression of that infinite. If I look at it from a masculine standpoint, we say Bhagavan. When we look at it from a feminine standpoint, we say Bhagavati. Its infinite can have no such distinctions, And she is nothing but a manifestation. All the devas are a manifest expression of that one infinite Ishvara. So thus you are none other than Bhagavati. You are Bhagavati Devi Gange. Sureshwari, who's the Sureshwari, Ishwari, you are the Lord of, the goddess of the gods. Suras are so those who, the heavenly citizens are called Suras. So she is Sureshwari. She's the sovereign goddess, sovereign goddess. This name Sureshwari can be used for any Bhagavan, any deity, any god or goddess. Mahalakshmi is called Sureshwari. Sri Meenakshi Devi is called Sureshwari. Lord Shiva is called Sureshwara. So then this is not about, so who's the real Sureshwara, or Sureshwari among all of this? Everyone is, because all are nothing but an expression of the one infinite Ishvara. So here she is addressed as Sureshwari. Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange. Gange is the word derived from the word gam, which means to move. But she moves fast. She's a swift moving river, especially in the Himalayas when you see. So it's not a slow, meandering, flow. She moves fast from here to there, jumping over rocks. So she is Gange. That's what the word Ganga means, Tarala Tarange, the waves, whose waves are Taralam. Taralam is so unsteady, tremulous, fickle, You don't know what to expect the next minute. Sometimes it's relatively slow, calm. Sometimes she's very, very active, strong currents, you can see in Ganga. And sometimes she's violent, fearful, and she will huge boulders, 8 feet, 10 feet diameter, they will just roll down her in the waters. She can be that powerful, that strong. So thus, fierce, Shankara Mauli, Tribhuvana Tarini, the one who's Tarini, the one who helps a person cross, helps a jiva cross. What kind of jiva? Tribhuvanam. Those who live in all the three bhuvana, bhuhu, bhuvaha, suvaha. The living beings that reside in all lokas, that we know, that we don't know. The whole world is not just what we see. We ourselves know that. We just recently discovered, when we discovered the microscope or invented the microscope. Then we discovered there are other lokas. Then we discover the X-ray machine. Then we find out there are other lokas. Visually, So there are known, unknown, wherever living beings are there. She helps them cross over this samsara, what we call as the samsara. Tribhuvana Tarini. There are other beings, devas, gandharvas, kindaras, yakshas, asuras, pretas, all kinds of beings are described in our Puranas. It doesn't matter who it is. How does she do that? She does it in twofold ways. One is by purifying them of their karmas. Ganga characteristic is to purify. So, for the Purva karmas are there, Papa karmas. Karmas that bind us, that give us sorrow, that bring us to this world of limitations. And she purifies a person of those papams. And also she represents jnanam, you know. She's a metaphor for Brahma Jnanam, Brahma Vidatma, Brahmatma Jnanam, you know, it's called. So, which is that knowledge is like her, it's a pravaha that flows down from generation to generation. So, she's a metaphor for that jnanam. So, through that metaphor and through purification, she helps jivas cross over this samsara. So Tribhuvana Tarini Tarala Tarange Shankara Mauli Viharini is Shankara Mauli Viharini. Viharam is so residence. So I see her. Where do I see her? Where first Gangaji appears for a human being. So she is there living. Where? On the Jata. Jata of Lord Shankara. See, Shankara Mauli. Mauli is the crown or the Jat. His crown was his Jata. Is, you know. So that is where she lives. There's a whole story behind that. We'll look at that. So she's Shankara Mauli Viharini. When Ganga Devi agreed to come down to Manushya Loka, then she had one concern, not concern, but she told Bhagiratha that if I come down from the heavens, then her force was so tremendous, her power, her Shakti, that she might wipe away take away the whole earth in that force. So there was no way to stop it once she came down. And so the only person who could stop it, he says, Bhagiratha was Lord Shiva, Parameshwara, So he's also, so Bhagiratha said this to her. And he is also known as Ashutosha. Lord Shiva is easy to please. Don't have to do much elaborately. Some simple penance is there, disciplines are there. And he not only is easily pleased, but also readily gives boons. So Bhagiratha thought he can implore on to Lord Shiva to help in this regard. And he agrees to receive her on his head. And so this is how she comes down, And then, she had a little bit of a pride because of her greatness. And so she wondered, my strength is so perhaps, maybe wondered, or thought that when I come down on his head, I might just swipe, he may himself be swept away. But then when she came down, she just got trapped in his hair. He remained firm. And then trapped there, perhaps to also give her a little lesson on her pride. And then Bhagiratha had to again implore him to let her free. And then he let her free through his jata, the hair, the flowing hair. And it is said in the Purana, then she comes down in different forms, slowly, in the form of five different rivers, like Mandakini, Alakananda, which are all part of her tributaries. They meet later on in the Himalayas, and then she comes down as Bhagirathi, Shankara Mauli Viharini Vimale, the one who is free from malam. She takes on all these negative impurities, but herself remains free, Malam is something that sticks to us, dirt. Sticks. Anything when I expose myself physically to the environment, then it picks up from the environment. Things which are so harmful or things which are unnecessary. That is called malam. This is not only physical, it's also mental, because I'm interacting with the world on a mental level, on a cognitive level, on an emotional level. And all these interaction pick up all kinds of malam. But then she herself is free from all malam, essentially being pure. Vimale, mama matirastam tava padakamali. Number 2, भागीरथि सुखदायिनि मातस्तव जल महिमा निगमे ख्यातः नाहं जाने तव महिमानं पाहि कृपामयि माम अज्ञानम्. भागीरथि सुखदायिनि मातः तव जलम तव जल महिमा निगमे ख्यातः न अहम जाने तव महिमानम पाहि कृपा मयि माम अज्ञानम. It says, Bhagirathi Sukhadayini Mataha. So, Mother Ganga, you're the one who brought joy to Bhagiratha. Bhagiratha was a rishi. The story of Gangaji's coming down to earth begins with, so Bhagiratha's great grandfather. So Bhagiratha was the son of great grandson of King Sagara. And the Sagara had many sons and called Sagara Putras. And so I won't get into the detail of the story, but then they had some kind of a altercation with Kapila Rishi. And the Kapila Rishi cursed them. And, in the process, they got very angry, these sons. And he cursed them that their anger would destroy them. Look at this. Look at the messages in these stories, So anger does that. And the anger, because of their own anger, they were reduced to ashes, Okay. Something like this spontaneous combustion, You read about this, Google it and see what it is. So that is what anger is like. It can destroy you completely. But anyway, it destroyed them all. They were all reduced to ashes, the Sagaraputras. And then also incurred a lot of papam because of their altercation and anger towards this Kapila, with the Rishi. And so Sagara had another son whose name was Asamanjasa, who had a son, Amshuman. So he was the nephew, I guess, of this of these uncles who died. So he wanted to do something. They were dead, gone, with a lot of incurring papam. So he wanted their papam to be expiated, removed. And so he wanted to know what to do. He asked Kapila Muni, asked them to forgive them. And he says, well, I may want to forgive them, but they have performed the action, Nobody can forgive anybody, really speaking. We talk of forgiveness, big thing. Like we have it in our power to forgive anyone or condemn anyone for that matter. If I can't forgive, I can't condemn either. So he says, well, the action has been done. The karma is stuck to them. Only so Mother Ganga can remove their papam. So Amshuman starts praying to Ganga. Well, whole life he does this. But his prayers remain incomplete, So then he has a son, Dilipa. And so Dilipa continues with the prayers, invoking Mother Ganga to come and wash off these people, ancestors' sins. Dilipa also spends his life doing whatever he has to do. His karma is still unfulfilled. Then his son is Bhagiratha. And he continues this. You can see this, 3 generations. We do Tarpanams. So anyway, he does it and it works for him. Because his tapas was so intense. And then he invokes the Lord, invokes Brahmaji. Brahmaji tells Ganga Devi. Ganga Devi is happily moving around in the heavens. She doesn't want to come to Manushya Loka. But he suggests to her to go, respond. And so she agrees to come down. That is the story. Thus, helping Bhagiratha, finally she comes down. And then, so she, washes over that Kapila's ashram where these ancestors' ashes were there in the ground, and thus relieves them and fulfills Bhagiratha's prayers. So, Bhagirathi Sukhadaini Tava Jala Mahima Nigame Khyataha. So the Mahima, the glories of your Jalam, of your waters, are mentioned in Nigamas. Nigamas are Vedas. So Vedas talk about the glories of Ganga. She's addressed as Jahnavi in the Rig Veda. And then, of course, the other scriptures also, like Itihasas and Puranas, talk about her glories, he says. Well, they may talk about them, but I don't know any of this. Naham jane tava mahimanam. We don't know. How much do we know about Gangaji's glories? So, he says, Naham jane tava mahimanam. But still, pahi kripa mai mam ajnanam. Out of ajnanam, out of my ignorance, I don't know all these details. But still, you please protect me. And with your compassion, you please protect me. So that is how she came down in prayers to Bhagiratha. And his tapas was so intense, that Brahmaji, he gives it a special name. It becomes what do you call that? The golden standard. Bhagiratha's tapas. So there is a term called Bhagiratha tapas, a term that is said to have been coined by Brahma. And it is like the gold standard of intense tapas, because of its result, what it finally accomplished. And so then she came down in so many streams, and then she lands there and manifests and comes out as Bhagirathi. Bhagirathi from Gomukh. Gomukh is one place, Gangotri. And then she travels down Gangotri and then meets up with, in Devaprayag, she meets up with this Alakananda. Alakananda is, please put, somebody's talking. Oh, hold on. Okay, 1 second. Hema, can you please put yourself on mute? Okay. Your microphone on mute, yeah. So then all these other rivers, Alakananda also is from, from original Ganga. And then she is from Badrinath, from near Badrinath. Then Mandakini from the area of Kedarnath, Yamuna from Yamunotri. All these Char Dhams are there. These are all tributaries then they all ultimately join up. Yamuna joins up way later on, in Allahabad. So, and then she becomes Ganga. Once she joins up with Alaknanda in Devaprayag, then she comes down through Rishikesh, Haridwar, and then into the plains across the India, all of it, with many, many thousands of tirthams, pilgrim spots along the way are there. So this is the story of her descent, Pahi kripa mahima hari. Okay, number 3. हरिपदपाद्यतरङ्गिणि गङ्गे हिमविधुमुक्ताधवलतरङ्गे दूरीकुरु मम दुष्कृतिभारं कुरु कृपया भवसागरपारम् हरिपदपाद्यतरङ्गिणि गङ्गे. Hey Gange, O Mother Ganga, you are Haripada Padya Tarangini. Tarangas we saw are waves, So you are made up of these waves, Tarangas, river, Ganga river. And you are Haripada Padya. So she is called as Vishnupadi. Another name for Ganga is Vishnupadi. So because she is said to have been born from the feet of Lord Vishnu. So remember, she is connected to Lord Shiva before she comes down to Manushya Loka. She originates from the feet of Lord Vishnu. So this is another story, legend in the Puranas. So connected to the Vamana Avatara of Lord Vishnu. So in that Avatara, when we all know, I won't again go into details, but he manifests, Lord Vishnu manifests as Vamana, and then assumes this form, infinite form, in order to his manifest to regain the the whole universe from Mahabali, who had taken it by the strength of his own karmas. So he manifests, and then he takes these 3 steps, Trivikrama. And as he lifts up the 3rd step, so it is said that he creates an opening in Brahmandam, and from which then this Ganga that is there in the heavens above, she comes through, So from other regions. And as she comes down, she washes over the feet of Vishnu. So as she washes over that is from where she gains this capacity, it is said, of being pure and being able to purify anyone who comes in touch with her, in contact with her, like that. So she gains this. Therefore she is called Bhagavatpadi or Vishnupadi. Both names are there. So Haripada Padyata, so you're the one who came from the feet of Lord Vishnu, who washed the feet of Lord Vishnu. And then Brahmaji used to carry her in his kamandalu. And it is said there also. So where Brahmaji once was doing worship to Narayana, and he performed that worship with the waters, sacred, sanctified waters, because he had Gangaji in his kamandalu. So she is one goddess that is connected to both Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. Hima vidu mukta dhavalatarange. Hima is snow, white color, snow. Vidu is moon, and muktaha is the pearl, the white. So all three are white in color. So here the idea is that it's a metaphor. So you are of the color like she's white like the color of the moonlight, or the snow, or the pearl. You know. That's what Ganga looks like that actually, if you see, especially in the Himalayas. So as she's coming down with all the, it's narrow, and then it comes down with the force, and there are foam, waves, and all these are white, bright white in color, especially in sunlight or in moonlight. You can see that. So the froth and the rapids and the waves. Duri kuru mama dushkriti bharam. So please, this is again as a prayer. Kuru kripaya bhavasagara param. So please get rid of this weight that I'm carrying. Get it away from me, please. Of karma, the weight of karma. It is said she does this. Darshanat, sparshanat, panat, tatha gangeti kirtanat. Punat yapunyan purushan. Shatasho atha sahasrashaha. It is said in Mahabharata that darshanat, just by having darshanam of Ganga, Ganga darshan, sparshanat, by the touch of Ganga. Not, you don't need to go there and then sink yourself in Ganga or drink buckets of water. Carry, I know somebody. So yeah, he's from Israel, Israeli person. So he's so much in love with Ganga. He always has this 5 gallon jugs of Ganga, and he'll somehow he gets them from India. He has them flown over. So I've seen in his home. So anyway, so it really is not a small thing, Ganga Jalam. So he says, but touching Prokshanam is enough. One drop of Ganga is enough. Invoking Ganga, which we do in pujas, is enough. Spashanat, of course, sipping the waters. Panat. Gange iti kirtanat, singing the glories of Ganga. He says all of this, punati, purifies a person. Many, many times, not just once, Because we commit papam all the time also. It's not that once even you purified one, then again you have to do. Praise is an ongoing process. Because karma is ongoing, Kuru kripaya bhavasagara param. And in the process, so bhavasagaras, the ocean of bhava. Bhava is this life. Bhavati iti bhavaha. So that life that I live, life after life after life, is all bhavas. And this is an ocean in which I am sinking. I'm drowning up and down. So please get me over this samsara chakram. 4. Tava jalam amalam yena nipitam paramapadam khalu tena grihitam matar gange tvayo bhaktah khilatam drashtum nayamashaktaha. Okay. Tava jalam amalam yena nipitam. Your jalam, amalam jalam. Gangaji, the waters are amalam, free from impurities, like we have seen. This is another thing, So, Gangaji's water, Ganga water, is polluted. It's a big, big debate, It's a political debate, the social debate, historical debate, scientific debate. All kinds of debates are there about whether Ganga water is pure or impure, So, is appalam. We have to understand what is purity and impurity in a twofold way here, So there is a religious purity. There's a concept of religious purity and impurity, like kosher, kosher. Purity is in the form, is physical. Impurity is physical, can be physical. Not only that, I have to take a bath every day to clean myself. Or impurity can be mental, on an emotional level. Emotions that bring me down, that pull me down, that give me sorrow, make me suffer. So it is something undesirable, unwanted. I'm always trying to get rid of. Then cognitive impurity also, in terms of my thinking, in terms of my knowledge, in terms of my understanding, in terms of my values, my priorities, all that mixed up, confusion. So all of these are the things that are obstacles to me all the time. And so this is all what malam is about. That which is essential is always pure, That which is extraneous is impure. Anything extraneous, even the body, physical body, knowingly or not, wants to get rid of. A thorn goes into your thigh, you may not be able to take it out because it's inside. No surgeon around. You're afraid to cut yourself. What is the body going to do? Well, it gets it out. Gets it out. It'll fight it. It'll create an abscess with the object. And the abscess will eventually burst and it'll eject the foreign body. Okay. The body does it. It doesn't want it. Who wants malam at any level? Because that which is me is really free from malam. That which is essential is free from malam. That which is extraneous is malam. You understand that. So Ganga is pure. That is one purity. And then, of course, even nowadays, there's a lot of research going on. You should read about it all. It's really very, and gain some insight. Gangaji water it doesn't putrefy like other waters. It has certain elements in it which are unusual. It has a slightly higher sulfur content. They've discovered it has what are these bacteriophages? The microbiologists have discovered. These are like little virus-like organisms that kill bacteria. And they are there in Ganges water. They are not there seen in other river waters. Because Ganga, even though it comes from the mountains, Himalayas, but Himalayas were at one time under the ocean. And they say that these particular bacteriophages come from some permafrost layer. And then the whole thing came up, and there's a whole lot of theory around it, and observations and findings. You should look it up. So it has some, even physically, some qualities that are different from other waters. Gangaji has that. But even beyond that, this has to do with bhavana, with sentiment, and an understanding of what is shuddhi, ashuddhi from the religious standpoint, So he says your jalam is amalam. And then it, yena nipitam, the one who partakes of it, you partake of this jalam. What happens? Paramapadam tena grihitam. He gains Paramapadam. Paramapadam is the ultimate end. I mentioned in a twofold way. Because one is she does it by removal of papa karmas. And then she also by accompany with this jnanam, jnana Ganga. Knowledge in the form of this Brahmatma Jnanam that one gains, by which one gains that freedom. In order to gain that, I have to have a mind, and I have to have a mind which is amalam mind, a mind which is freed itself from the prior contaminants gathered by way of karmas. So, in these twofold ways, she helps me gain the ultimate end. Tvai yo bhaktaha kilatam drashtum na yama shaktaha. The one who is devoted to you. How is one devoted to you? So by understanding all of these things and developing the requisite understanding and sentiments, the one who is devoted to you, he says, to that person, even Yamaha is not able to see him. Yamaha tam drishtum na shaktaha. Not possible to see. Hare, how can you say that? Yamaha sees everybody at one point. Yamaha is the god of death. He visits every living being. Okay. At some point or the other. Okay. Nobody is free from him. Either he himself may show up, if you're lucky, and a Bhagavad Darshanam, or he sends his dutas. Dutas are the representatives who escort you to him. So, when they come, if they happen to come, imagine what happens. So, normal jiva, this is what happens. So, when it's time for the jiva to go, and then from a particular existence, loka, then this dutas manifest and escort the jiva wherever it is supposed to go. So Yama comes. Then here, when they come, they don't see this jiva. Jiva cannot be seen. It disappeared. Where did the jiva disappear? Jiva is the ahankara, It disappeared became one with Parameshwara. So naturally, there is no individuality. It's called as a Jivan Muktaha. So the one who has reached that Paramapadam, that ultimate goal, the ultimate end, then there is no individual there. The individuality, it has become one, it has merged, it has resolved into whatever different words you can use, become non-separate from that infinite divinity that sustains all, is always all abiding. And so, of course, why Yamadutas won't find anybody, even Yamadevata will not see anybody, because this jiva has already become one with Narayana. Okay, so good. So, so we're covering the essentials. Don't worry. We have one more session next week. We'll finish this. So beautiful verses. Talks so much about Ganga. So it's let's look at one more maybe. पतितोद्धारिणि जानवि गंगे खंडित गिरिवर मंडित भंगे भीष्म जननि हे मुनिवर कन्ये पतित निवारिणि त्रिभुवन धन्ये. We'll see some of it. Patitodharini Jahnavi Gange. You are Patita Udhar. Patitam. Patitam is the one who has fallen. Okay. The fallen ones. We are all the fallen ones. What does it mean to fall? Falling, fall means to go downwards. We have this metaphor, going up and going down, going up and going down. Up is usually metaphor for growth, maturity. I guess because we grow, physically we grow up, you know. So we grow, physically you grow up. And this way also, after a while, you grow this way, sideways and upwards, not downwards. Fortunately, Prithvi blocks us. And then, but mentally also you grow. There's emotional growth. There's cognitive growth. So this upward movement and downward is regression, So the regression means going back to a previous stage of which was immature. The maturity process is considered growth. So everybody is mature, depending on your age. So for a given age, there is a given maturity level. So as one ages, then one's maturity also becomes more, supposed to. And then sometimes one can regress back to an earlier stage. So this is what is upward and downward, falling and rising. Okay. So he says, the one who has fallen in terms of one's own, Jiva is said to have been fallen into this cycle, into this samsara chakram, or samsara sagara, So, and suffering. With this falling comes the suffering. So he says, the one who lifts those who have fallen. As we have seen how she does that. Patito Dharini, Jahnavi. She is Jahnavi. Another name for Ganga is Jahnavi. This is another story associated with it. As she travels following Bhagirath, creates the trail leading towards Kapila's ashram. On the way, so her force is still very strong. She's come from heavens. There is this Jannu Rishi, whose ashram is also there. And he is totally engrossed in meditation. But the force of her coming, so she creates all these furrows and all in the land around his ashram, and tremendous noise. And it disturbs his meditation is disturbed. And so what does he do? He swallows her. He swallows her. That's what the story. And then Bhagiratha, she's following Bhagiratha. And then Bhagiratha happens to turn around and sees that Gangaji is not there. She's lost. Okay. She's lost. So, remember, this happens to rivers sometimes. Okay. They just disappear. You'll see, talk to people who live by the rivers, they will say. So there used to be a river here, but that something happened and then it disappeared. It went underground or it took another route or something it does. But in any case, perhaps something like that happened around Jannu's ashram. But so Jannu, because he was disturbed by whatever he did, she disappeared. And so now Bhagiratha has to implore again the Rishi, and then he lets her go again, Then she comes up. She comes up again back from somewhere and then continues her journey, So she's called as Jahnavi because of that association with Jannu's river. She is also called as Jahnavi. Khandita Girivara Mandita Bhange. The one who created this, Khandita means to break. The one who created these furrows, these gorges, canyons in the mountains, in the Himalayas. Remember, Himalayas are soft mountain. So she's created all these kinds of their valleys and all ridges. So the one who created all this in the Himalayas, Girivaram is Himalaya. the most exalted among the giris, among the mountains. And so she adorns him. So the one who adorned this Himalayas in the form of garlands made with these with these gorges and canyons. Bhishma Janani he Munivara Kanye Patita Nivarini Tribhuvara Dhanye. She is Bhishma Janani. We'll see this next time. She is the mother of Bhishma. So she is looked upon as Ganga Devi, goddess Ganga. In one of her manifestations, she manifests as a person called as Ganga, who was married to consort of Shantanu. And their son was Bhishma. Bhishma Pritama. So anyway, so that is connected to. So she's Bhishma Janani. She's also considered mother of Kartikeya. She's the mother of Ganesha. They are all called Gangeya. Gangeya is Ganga's putras are Gangeyas. So whether it is Bhishma or Kartikeya, Ganesha was also called Dvimatura. Dvimatura, one who had two mothers. There's another story connected to Ganesha's birth. We'll see a couple of this next time. Okay, very revealing. So I'll stop with this and then I'll just, we'll continue with the next talk. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.